Hello and welcome to the Experiencing Love podcast. I'm your host, Philip Jocks, and I'm so glad that you're here. I feel like I want to take a picture of my current setup and what it's like to be recording right now because I envision a future where my podcast has grown and maybe I don't speak as often, maybe it's weekly episodes or twice a week, and they're interviews and I'm talking to people all the way, having interesting and fascinating conversations. And it would just be so amazing to have that before and after, to have that remember where you came from moment. I think there's a lot of things that I want to capture now, capture at this point in my life for that specific reason. I know that I won't always be here in this particular point in my life, and I get nostalgic for photos like that. I like thinking about what the past was like and how much I've grown. I value growth, and it's just such a clear representation of it. And it also makes me wonder, what else do I have right now that's worth capturing? What else do I have right now in my life that's worth capturing either through writing or through pictures and saving for later? It makes me think about what I take for granted at this point in my life. I think there's a lot I take for granted. If I'm not mistaken, isn't there some type of term for it, like law of familiarity or something like that, where the longer something is in your life or the more of something you have in your life, the easier it is for us to take for granted, and that over time we will naturally take things for granted. It'll become a part of our comfort zone, a part of what we're used to. So no matter how hard you work for something in your life, as soon as you get it and as soon as it's there, you will eventually start to familiarize yourself with that. I think that also leads to a good practice of disconnecting from everything, taking away everything you have in your life, maybe not all at once, but periodically, to remember why it's there. Wow, just mentioning that idea just kind of uncovers something in my head for me. It's that I regularly have this habit, or I have this pattern that occurs in my life where I'm doing a habit every single day, and it could be something like the cold showers or something like reading every day. And I do it so much that it's like the law of familiarity. I get used to it. And once I get used to it, I don't see the clear difference in my life with and without it. And the pattern is that when I get to that point, I often stop doing some of these habits simply because I don't think it has the effect on me that it has. What I end up doing as a result is I cut it out, and the quality of my life will just drop for a bit, and it'll serve as a reminder as to why I started that habit to begin with. And then I have to work at getting back into it and making it a part of what I do every day. I guess in the past I wondered why that happened. Why do I not value the things that I know help me more often and for longer? And now I wonder if there's a way that I can use something like the law of familiarity to my advantage, or just knowing about it. Because I wonder, if I know how long it takes on average for me to become familiar or used to or take for granted something in my life, I wonder if I could have this large scale, long-term habit or pattern or just routine where I disconnect from my life, or disconnect a bunch of the things in my life to remind myself why I do what I do. There's so much in my life that I don't want to take for granted, but I do. Not just what I do, but also the people that I know and love. It's really easy to take people for granted, and it isn't until they're gone that you value them or you truly recognize their value in your life. Sadly, it takes most often death in a family to really recognize a person's value. When you spend time with someone, maybe it's every day, maybe it's every week, you'll get used to it. And then we all have the capability of having the audacity to find things that we don't appreciate in other people and not focusing on what we do appreciate. I wonder what that's about. You know, with the law of familiarity, we get used to the good and we don't question the good, but over time, we keep focusing on the bad. We get used to something until the bad outweighs the good, and then we'll remove it. I say that using the example of the habits I mentioned before. Most often, although it's a good habit with good benefits and side effects and whatever for me, for my body, for my mental health, once I get used to it, I see the drawback of it takes up time. I get used to the good benefits and I start noticing the subjectively negative outcome of it taking up time in my life, and I want to take back my time. So I stop doing those habits. I wonder what that's about. Only focusing on the bad versus the good, or I guess not only focusing, but just shifting focus. Where focus goes, energy flows. I've noticed recently I've had a focus on the challenges in my life and the things that are difficult and the habits that don't work and the limiting beliefs holding me back. And I'm starting to realize that I have this pattern that I keep looking for something to fix, for something to change. And because I keep putting my focus there, my energy goes there. And it's great because I'm finding all these different ways to optimize the different areas of my life and just making things incrementally better. But the drawback is that some things don't need to be improved, at least not right now. But I'm constantly looking for things to improve. I'm not acknowledging what's working now. I talked about starting this process where every month I work on my limiting beliefs, the things holding me back. And I want to keep it to that. I want to keep it to only once or twice a month I'm looking at what's not working. And I much rather focus at least once a week on what is. What are the empowering beliefs that are working for me? Where can I put my focus so that my energy goes there? When you're constantly focused on what's not working, because you're already taking for granted everything that is working, it makes everything feel like a battle, like a challenge, like you always have to push through something. And I think lately I've been getting really tired. I've been getting really tired with this feeling of constantly pushing rather than having my future, my vision, my purpose pulling me forward, pulling me from my future. As still part of that old belief that I'm looking for things to improve, I do acknowledge that having the pattern of noticing patterns has been really useful for me. Ultimately, what I'm doing is I'm building this very crucial skill in life called pattern recognition. I'm noticing the patterns in my life because there's patterns everywhere. If we simply just look at things like time, the seasons, time, every day certain things happen near the same time. It follows a pattern. Or if we look at us people, we are creatures of habits, creatures of patterns. So the more you're able to notice patterns and recognize them, you can move on to the next step, which is pattern utilization. Being able to see a pattern is the first step. It's the foundation. And it starts to get really powerful when you know how to use the patterns to your advantage. I'm noticing patterns in my life now that I've never noticed before because I really haven't been looking. But now that I see them, I can use them to my advantage. An example of this is my sleep schedule, right? Where I haven't quite looked at what my ideal sleep schedule is. I haven't really focused on my body and exactly what time do I feel good waking up in the morning? What time do I feel good going to bed at night? And since doing that over the past few weeks, past few months, I'm noticing a pattern that I've never quite embraced before. Once I know the pattern and I can use it and I can set my sleep schedule in a way that works best for my body and my mind, I can reach the third stage, which is the most powerful, which is pattern creation. Pattern creation is all about knowing what a pattern is, how they work, and how to make them. And not just for yourself, but for other people. It always starts with ourselves, but once you've mastered how to do something for yourself, it's so simple to learn how to do that for other people. It's simple, not easy. It can be done. And when you do it right, people find a lot of value in the patterns you can help them create, or you can help them see within themselves, really. So I'm grateful that I'm focusing so much on patterns. Right now, I'm focusing a lot on the patterns that don't work for me. That's okay, because luckily I have core beliefs and core values that help keep me in check. You know, I have such a value on learning and on growing and on grace, right? Being kind to myself, accepting myself. I also have this belief that everything happens for a reason. And it's so much easier to look at life through a lens that there is purpose behind everything. Even if the purpose is so mundane that most people would say it doesn't exist. For me, it gives me a perspective shift because it gives space for me to stop complaining and stop blaming and stop criticizing, because I know that with everything having a reason and me not knowing that reason, I can accept that there's things happening that are bigger than I can understand, bigger than I can comprehend. And if I can't understand something, if I can't comprehend something, my first step is to look for that understanding, not to look for criticizing it or complaining about it. I didn't expect, wow. I kind of just went into quasi-hypnotic state talking about all that because I don't even know what I just talked about, but I did just snap out of it. So I'm going to end this here. I'm going to listen back to this, and I know a year from now, this is going to be a good episode to return to. And even though I will be here in a year listening to this episode, I thank you for being here right now. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I hope you have an incredible rest of your day. Remember to always fill up with the love, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. I love you.